out about an hour ago. Drew Brees and the Saints agreeing to a 2-year deal worth a maximum of $50 million. And we all knew this was going to happen, but you creep up to a deadline and you get people anxious, and it's understandable, but that's why we tried to talk some people off the ledge, even though I was facetiously pushing people closer to the ledge. But now everybody can come back, settle down. Saints are fired up. Drew Brees is fired up. Our good buddy Mike Triplett of ESPN actually had a chance to catch up with Drew Brees this morning. We'll relay those comments. Also, so many other Saints tidbits. I'm just going to throw the phone number out there right now because I'm sure people want to get involved. 504-260-1280. Let me lay out the guest list. I thought about just scrapping every guest, but said, no, let's too much going on up in Baton Rouge. You want to talk with our own Andrew Lopez. We'll talk with him at 10:30, and then in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll talk with Brett Martell, the Associated Press, who I'm sure is putting finger to keyboard right now, writing the Drew Brees story. And Jeff, deal makes sense. It's basically the parameters you and me have talked about again and again and again. We knew it would come down to the end, nearing the deadline. They've gotten it done, and it seems like the way that the deal is being reportedly structured, that this will give the Saints flexibility, and that Drew Brees certainly gave a discount. Yes. Certainly, there's no question he gave the Saints a discount.
Well, we're going to see soon because Kirk Cousins is probably going to sign a deal for around $30 million here tomorrow, and I don't think anybody believes Kirk Cousins is worth more on the open market than Drew Brees. And Jimmy Garoppolo signed for more money. Jimmy Garoppolo is obviously much younger, but Drew Brees, on the other side of things, is going to be paid more money than any 40-year-old quarterback in NFL history. So there is that.
Absolutely.
It's a different circumstance and a very unique circumstance for both sides. But they had to get it done now. We all knew it, and so it came in right where everybody thought it would come in. So really to me, this was not news.
Well, it's certainly news.
I know you know what I mean. It's news if he doesn't sign,
right,
more so than him signing. We all knew this was going to happen. It was exactly the deal we thought. 2-year deal. It's kind of what I thought. So, now the Saints can move forward. I actually think some of the bigger news is the fact that they're not going to tender Delvin Breaux, and that they've elected to tender Willie Snead.
Right.
Both those things are interesting to me.
Right, absolutely. We'll dive into that, and we've discussed that proposition of the restricted free agents, so we'll dive into that. I'll just give you guys some of the details of what's being reported out there as far as Adam Schefter is saying that the Drew Brees deal will be written as a 2-year deal, but in actuality it will be a 1-year deal with a team option after the first year. It will also include a no-trade clause, virtually ensuring that Brees finishes his career in New Orleans. I'm curious to see how far back some of this dead cap money is going to go, because they're going to have to spread this out. Who cares? If you're the Saints right now, you deal with that later on in life, because at that point when Drew Brees is on his way out and retiring, I'm assuming they would be going with a young quarterback, and the price tag for that young quarterback would be cheap anyway. So I bet you that's what the Saints are figuring if you're looking to the future for this deal. That's probably their mindset.
That's exactly what their mindset is. They say they have Taysom Hill or a rookie quarterback. You're paying them less than $1 million a year. So if you have $20-something million in dead money, you're still allocated the same amount on your cap that you did when you were paying Drew Brees. And so that's part of the strategy and the plan. It makes a lot of sense. Of course, the issue there is you're paying a guy, in essence, paying him what you paid Drew Brees. But it's a way of kind of cheating the system a little bit. I think it's pretty smart.
I think when you're going for it like this, and you're the Saints, how long have you had to pay a quarterback for? Over a decade, you've had to pay pretty significant money. That's not the case with every team in the league. At one point, Aaron Rodgers didn't make a ton of money. At one point, Russell Wilson didn't. So the Saints have always been, in the Drew Brees era, in a unique circumstance where they've always had to pay pretty. The original Brees deal wasn't total top dollar, but as you kept going, you've had to do this because you're not letting your franchise quarterback walk away.
And they couldn't afford to. I mean, I think last year was a unique situation because neither side knew what was going to happen. Neither side knew how the team was going to perform. Was it in Brees' best interest to move on and try and win another Super Bowl somewhere else? Was it going to get blown up here in the front office? Now that everything's settled, this team is a playoff contender again. It makes sense for Drew Brees to finish his career here. I mean, now next year he will break Peyton Manning's NFL career passing yardage record. Assuming he stays healthy, he'll break it as a Saint. He's going to break the record for most games played in Saints history. I mean, all these things mean a lot to a guy like Brees, who's a historian of the game, appreciates his legacy, and all that. He needs to do it as a New Orleans Saint. So that's really what this is all about today, getting your franchise quarterback back under terms, and now they can focus on the rest of the roster because the rest of the league, as we've noted on here a bunch of times, the NFC is, it seems to me like all the moves are going in the NFC just about. I know the Browns and the Bills, they don't count. But these contenders in the NFC are bolstering their rosters. The Saints are going to have to keep making moves, I think, to keep pace.
Yeah, we're going to keep this situation fluid because free agency is moving fast and furious, and as news comes across, we will certainly bring it to you right here on Dunc and Holder. But just want to relay some of the comments that Drew Brees told our good buddy, former colleague Mike Triplett, who's now at ESPN. He asked him some pretty poignant questions, and Drew Brees gave him some pretty poignant answers. I'll just read what Mike put on Twitter saying about his new deal, saying, quote, "There was no doubt in our minds, I think both myself and the Saints, that we were going to get a deal done. It was just a matter of what was the most fair deal for me and for the team to put us in the best position to succeed in the near future, a la they know they've got a window and they wanted to get something done that would be beneficial." And Brees said he would be, quote-unquote, lying if he didn't admit it's hard to decide between taking max value and keep raising the bar for other players. That's something we've talked about for years. Drew Brees has always been a union guy. He doesn't want to shortchange the quarterback position and salaries by taking less because he doesn't want that to affect other players in the future. And the first time we've heard that isn't the second time we've heard that, and it probably won't be the fourth or fifth time we've heard that. We always known that's got to be in Drew's DNA.
And it's exactly what happened. I mean, he both sides compromised a little bit here for the good of the greater end. The means to the end here is to try and win another Super Bowl. The Saints' best shot at doing that is with Drew Brees at quarterback. And Drew Brees' best shot is going to be playing in this system where he is a perfect fit in Sean Payton's offense. I don't know why it had to go down to this. I mean, I always ask these questions because this is exactly what the deal we all thought was going to happen months ago. I don't know why they do. I mean, they both know they're going to arrive at this point. It seems silly to me to take it down to the last minute, but that's just the way it goes here with Condon and Loomis.
And more from Drew Brees saying, adding on to that quote, but for me, this was about putting our team in the best position to go win a championship in the next few years. And Mike adding that he practically apologized to agent Tom Condon for not allowing him to max out his value, which certainly would have been more in the open market. There's no doubt about it. And all the salary cap gurus out there who guys we trust, say like a Joel Corey, he was saying on Twitter that there's no doubt the Saints, Drew Brees did a favor to the Saints because if him getting less money than Jimmy Garoppolo shouldn't have happened. Like if there's an open market, teams are going to pay Drew Brees more than Jimmy Garoppolo, even if it's just for the short term.
No doubt about it. And Brees knows that. Brees is hyper aware of everything going on in the league and contract terms. He's a former executive with the NFL Players Association. So I can see why he would be conflicted because it's up to him and guys like Tom Brady to kind of pay it forward for the future quarterbacks of this league and set the bar. But it is a very unique situation. There's unusual circumstances with players around 40. We saw the exact same thing with Peyton Manning. I mean, he took a lesser deal in his final years so Denver could make a Super Bowl run. And it makes sense for Brees to do it now, too.
And the Manning deal was similar to the Brees deal in that the second year is basically a team option, and who orchestrated that contract, too, was Tom Condon. He's Peyton Manning's agent, also Drew Brees' agent. So,
does anybody think the team's not going to exercise the option?
Well, if Drew Brees, people are going to hate me. I'll knock on as much wood. If Drew Brees stays healthy, what if he gets hurt? Then what do you do?
Well, of course, that goes without saying. But
yeah,
the point is,
look, there's an extreme.
The point is, I mean, I'm not calling it a 1-year deal. I'm calling it a 2-year deal.
I don't expect him to play any less than 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
and who knows? Maybe more.
If it were a 1-year deal, it would be a 1-year deal.
Right.
So I mean, it's a 2-year deal, and
well, it's also the 2-year deal, so you can extend the money later.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's a 2-year deal, and $50 million is exactly what we thought it would be. And I think now the Saints are really going to start getting interesting.
Let me bring up some interesting tidbits that have already been floating around there. I think we've maybe talked about a Jimmy Graham reunion once or twice or 15,000 times on this show within the last week. Jay Glazer, who I think Jay Glazer actually broke the story. I'm not totally sure because seemed like once it got out, everybody got it. But Jay Glazer were saying that with the Brees deal done, the Saints know what their cap is. They still want a 3 technique and a DB. So they're looking for a defensive tackle and a corner, which are both positions we've kind of mentioned. But saying that a Jimmy Graham reunion is the top priority if they can pull that off. And Mike Triplett had a chance to ask Drew Brees about that this morning. And Drew Brees saying, all I'll say is I would love nothing more than to have Jimmy back. He'd be even better fit now than he was when he started with us. Does that maybe put smoke where there might be some fire and there might be a Jimmy Graham reunion?
That's definitely an endorsement.
I think so.
That's a definite endorsement. You can almost now. I know there's some other interest around the league. The Packers, I believe, have shown interest. Maybe the Texans, I believe. But if Jimmy Graham wants to come back here, and it sounds like he does, then I think this deal will get done pretty quick.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. And then, as you mentioned, Jeff, earlier in the show, our own Josh Katzenstein breaking that restricted free agent Delvin Breaux will not be tendered by the Saints, so he will become a free agent tomorrow. Look, I've mentioned my thoughts on if I were Delvin Breaux at this point, I would want to go somewhere else. And it seems like that's going to be the case. His future will probably end up somewhere else. And then
we have 2 callers, but let's take a break.
And then, of course, Willie Snead, the news of that he will be tendered, but at the lowest tender. So we'll see if teams come after him, because you don't lose anything. It's the no compensation tender. So plenty of tidbits all over the league, of course, all things Saints. So let's take a break right here on the show. I know we got a couple of callers online. Hang on, we will get to you right after this break. Drew Brees contract, done deal. We can move on with our lives and prepare for what's next, which seems like could be some moving and shaking here with the Saints and improving for 2018. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Mother, can you keep them in the dark for a while? With up to 16
Dude, you don't look too good.
I know.
Don't you die on us, Clyde.
No,
If you do die, make sure you make a lot of noise because it's radio, so it doesn't visually transfer.
He doesn't even have headsets.
I know, he doesn't have a headset on. He's not even engaging. He's just looking over me. It looked like he's about ready to get sick. Has anybody ever thrown up in the Dunc and Holder show?
No, but it might happen.
I guarantee you or me have
First
come
time for
close.
everything.
All
right, so hey, look, we got
Time to get that one.
Who you got?
we got Cordell in Minnesota, but first up we got Bob in Cincinnati. But Bob seems like an odd bird because he calls up and he's like, I'm from Cincinnati and I love LSU. Is Coach Orgeron's son doing play-by-play? I'm like, he's like, I want to ask the guys.
If he's a goober, we're hanging out.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. It takes all kinds to make a radio show.
Yes.
Unmatched fun.
Yeah, I don't know what possessed him to ask that question in particular. I mean, is Coach O even in the news today?
City, rich in culture, character, and
Right. Yeah, there's all these NFL deals going on, and this guy wants to talk about LSU and Coach Orgeron's kid.
Yeah.
The Monkey Board at the Troubadour Hotel kicks off rooftop crawfish.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. I love sports.
Yes. Sports.
It'll be anything but generic this Friday at the Monkey Board on the Troubadour's rooftop.
For a limited time.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that.
That's right, a tasty 2-story tower of melty cheese made with fresh, never frozen beef for just $1. And since Wendy's Double Stack has a whole quarter pound of beef, it's the best double cheeseburger you can get for just $1. But a deal this big doesn't come around every day, so get a quarter pound double stack at Wendy's, because it won't be $1.
Expected to sign.
Valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada at participating Wendy's.
All right, 1 minute.
Actor Scott Baio's wife Renee has a microvascular brain disease. She revealed on Twitter over the weekend that she was diagnosed 5 months ago. The disease at its worst can cause problems with cognitive function, and it can lead to strokes and dementia. She also said she suffers from 2 brain tumors. Renee Baio suffered a brain injury in 1992 in a jet ski accident, but it isn't known if the new disease is related. Well, if you're on Medicare, you'll want to check your mailbox. Monica Nelson explains.
For those Americans who receive Medicare benefits, new cards are coming soon. Medicare will start mailing out the new cards in April to help protect Americans' identities. Social Security numbers will no longer be on the front of the cards. Instead, there will be a unique Medicare number. Americans don't need to do anything or pay anything to get the new card. They'll be automatically mailed in Wales. Monica Nelson, NBC News Radio.
Health update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Well, speaking of, it might be moving.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number. Saints and Drew Brees. Done deal. Won't be going anywhere. Now the quarterback dominoes are falling all over the league. As far as Case Keenum, looks like he's going to be a Denver Bronco. Kirk Cousins will be visiting the Minnesota Vikings. Looks like he will be a Minnesota Viking. So let's hit the phone lines. Let's head up to Cincinnati and talk with Bob. Hey, Bob, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, man, how are you today?
We're good. Less panic today.
I just got a question about LSU football.
LSU football, okay.
I've been
they just started
reading,
spring
about
practice.
Coach O hiring all these, I don't know what you call them, shadow staff analysts.
Right.
And I was just wondering if his son, Tyler, is he one of the analysts too?
I don't think. Isn't his son playing football at McNeese? Am I wrong about that?
That's the twin boys that play.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got an older stepson that is with the program.
Hi, yes. His older son, his stepson, I believe, or his adopted son, I can't remember which one is which. He's actually a GA in the staff. He's not actually technically in a one of the quality assistants or one of the assistants that they're bringing on. I know you saw the report yesterday that LSU is expected to bring on another offensive analyst for them, which is pretty much what's going on in the rest of college football. Either you're Nick Saban, you're Alabama, and you're bringing on every other former national championship winning or coach of some sort to be on your staff, or you're bringing an analyst, because you can only have so many true head coaches, and that number is getting larger by the year. But no, his son is technically, I believe, if I remember correctly, he is a GA on the LSU coaching staff.
Without Clyde, we would have.
Cragthorpe, is he still there?
No, Cragthorpe is. Coach Cragthorpe is still. Yes, he is still there. He's more of in a behind-the-scenes role. He's more of a coach that is actually helping, like Ed Ogeron and guys behind the scenes with things. He's not so much a coach on the field anymore. He's more or less really a guy that is really helping out in the behind-the-scenes work with Coach Ogeron, Coach Ensminger, and then some of the other coaches as well.
Hey, Bob, appreciate the phone call. Yeah, and then Clyde, without Clyde, we would have had no answers for him. So Clyde,
even on his deathbed,
Clyde is not well. Well, he's in here working hard, and so yeah.
According to Tyler Spots Ogeron's Twitter account, he's an offensive quarterbacks analyst. So that would fit into that role, which is what Clyde was talking about. This is like one of the new trends in college football. These staffs, these big schools like Alabama and LSU, have so much money now at their disposal, they can bring in an army of analysts. And a lot of them are former head coaches. I think Alabama, did they end up hiring Butch Jones?
I believe so. I believe they're bringing him on, yes.
As an analyst. The guy was a head coach at the University of Tennessee, and all they do is just kind of break down specific tape. They can't actually coach on the field. They can't lead a classroom in any way. That's what Greg McMahon did for a year before getting named special teams coordinator. And it sounds like that's what Tyler Spots Ogeron is in that role at LSU. I thought he was talking about the two twins, so I got confused.
All right, we'll be talking a little bit more LSU actually in a couple minutes. We'll have Andrew Lopez on. But we're going to head up to Minnesota. Cordell. Sorry, Cordell, that Drew Brees isn't going to be playing closer to you, but I'm sure you're glad he's not playing closer to you since you're the biggest Minnesota Saints fan I've ever met and probably will ever talk to in my life. So, what's up, bud?
You better believe that. I'd rather drive to New Orleans every day and every weekend to watch Drew play in the Dome than to watch him play 1 minute up here in Minnesota for the Vikings. Believe that.
There you go. What do you make of the deal?
Okay, man. Look, first of all, I just want to say, man, thank you, baby Jesus, for letting this thing happen because I couldn't sleep. My anxiety was just all over the place. I want to say, man, see, that's why we love Drew Brees so much, man. Drew Brees understands that this team is right on the brink, man. I think, with him going on and giving the team, a scout, they need to do their due diligence and put the right players around him to make sure that Drew wins the Super Bowl. I believe they now owe him. And I know they paying him a lot, $25 million, $27 million. It's not nothing to just wave your finger at. But I tell you, man, they owe him a championship, man, because he could have said, you know what? Look, this is my last contract, probably. You know what I mean? I want as much as I can get, and if the Saints didn't give it to him, he could have went anywhere, almost anywhere he wanted to go. So I'm so happy that Drew did that for the team, but they need to do their due diligence and make sure that they put the right players around him, and so that they can get to a Super Bowl.
Hey, Cordell, appreciate the phone call as always, and I think that's exactly what they're doing. Drew is doing them a solid. I'm sure they're going to do everything and humanly possible to spend every cap dollar they have to get the players they feel like will win them a championship. That's where they are right now.
New Orleans.
Yeah,
And
they got the money to do it now. They got some money to play with, and it's going to take money to get. If they are interested in Malcolm Butler, that market is hot. There's a lot of teams interested in Malcolm Butler. If they're trying to get another starting corner, it's going to cost them upwards of $10 million a year to bring someone like that in because the market's so hot for them right now. So they need money. And this deal now sets their parameters for their roster spending. They know what they've got to work with. And I'm sure it was all part of their plan going into this.
Well, we're talking Jimmy Graham a lot in connection to all this right now. A hot tight end on the free agent market. Sounds like he will be heading off to Chicago. Trey Burton, the Eagles tight end, sounds like he is going to be expected to sign with the Bears. This is according to Mike Garafalo from the NFL Network. And Ian Rappaport saying it's 4 years, $32 million. So that's $8 million a year. That's your parameters for Jimmy Graham right there.
Oh, yeah.
That deal right there.
No doubt. And I tell you, going back to the Delvin Breaux news, I do think it's interesting, and I think we alluded to this a couple times on the show, that late in the season last year, suddenly his locker was completely cleaned out. And that was an eye-opener for me. That usually does not happen. Maybe there was some kind of indication given to him then. I don't know. But for him to have cleaned his locker out, it was filled the entire season. They usually come out there for rehab and treatment, and all of a sudden it's completely cleaned out. But he was at the playoff game.
Yes, with Kenny Vaccaro in the press box. Pretty interesting duo because we don't expect either one of them to be back with the Saints.
No, I don't think. Well, no, neither one of them will be back, I don't think. So it was interesting they were sitting together when the rest of the team was down on the sidelines.
All right, let me take one more phone call, and then we're going to take a break and talk with Andrew Lopez. All right, lost a caller. If you want to give us a call, 504-260-1280 is their number. So let's take that break right now. We'll switch gears, talk LSU with Andrew Lopez. Lots going on up in Baton Rouge. Some controversy involving Christian Fulton. Also, Andrew Lopez did a really good story on Eric Reed, former LSU safety, and he's heading into free agency. So we'll talk with him about that. LSU takes on UL Lafayette tomorrow night in the NIT. So much going on up at Baton Rouge, so I wanted to keep that element in the show, even though the rest of the show will be All Saints all the time. And oh, by the way, don't the Pelicans play again tonight? They're still significant too. So
I'll be there.
We need a 12-hour show. We've only got a 2-hour one today. But stick around. Andrew Lopez next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. For Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Boomtown Casino and Hotel.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. A beautiful day today, breezy and cool. High of 64 with bright sunshine. Tonight, it's going to be chilly. Could see some patchy frost on the North Shore. 36 there, 47 south. Tomorrow, Wednesday, another beautiful day. Sunny and cool at 65. Wednesday night, Thursday morning, another night where we could see patchy frost with lows in the mid-30s north, 40s south, and we do warm up by Thursday and Friday back to the 70s. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Decide your ride is back at Boomtown Casino and Hotel. Win your choice of a 2018 Lexus IS, NX, or ES, or a share of thousands in bonus rewards. Visit BoomtownNewOrleans.com for info.
The Coastal Conservation Association is a local nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting Louisiana's marine resources. The West Bank chapter of the CCA will be holding a fundraising banquet at NOLA
commercial promo
Park
from a
on
boy.
March 29th at 6 p.m. The tickets are only $75 a person, which includes an open bar, dinner, and a one-year CCA
Where's
membership.
the other Dave?
For table and ticket info, call Katie Laurent at 225-952-9200.
Degenerate Dave, and then
Again,
stand-up
that's
Dave.
225-952. Hey, man, I'm doing the public service, man. I'm doing a public service.
Public service voice, Dave.
You have to be excited about Katie's expanded second floor seating and private dining rooms.
Yeah, but how about my vast local sports knowledge?
You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the
so the Bears are getting Bears are getting
daily specials.
Allen Robinson and Trey
I
Burke.
admit you have a great take on local sports.
Oh, they're getting Allen Robinson too?
Yeah.
We got a Brandon in New Orleans. Yeah.
Tell him.
Let me see if he. Yeah. What's Lopez talking about?
LSU.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see what Brandon wants, and maybe we'll just have him call back.
Yeah.
Master Katie.
Now the Bears need a quarterback.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, we have the first
Oh,
call.
you're not a
Here's Ryan
Trubisky
from
believer?
Georgia.
Welcome,
I'm
Ryan.
not
What
sold
can I
on
help
him.
you with today?
I mean,
Hi, Katie.
obviously he's
What
going to need
steps
more
should
than
I
just.
take to
I'm not
maintain
a
my
Trubisky
chance of
believer
applying for my
either.
first mortgage?
We saw him last year, didn't we?
Yeah,
I can't remember how he played. I don't
Go to a
remember
yoga
that.
master to perfect your downward dog. Go to Making Sense from Navy Federal to perfect your mortgage plan. Stretch your financial knowledge at NavyFederal.org/Making Sense. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put a little extra heart into everything we do, like actively looking to save you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5 Target coupon for every 10 prescriptions. On your next Target run, stop by CVS Pharmacy. We're the place
When you
with the
get a
big
minute,
heart.
check your phone.
Not valid on all prescriptions, including those purchased in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Other restrictions apply. See cvs.com/extracare-target or the pharmacy for details. CVS Pharmacy at Target. Health is everything.
Learn what our insiders know about your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Even though it's Saints crazy going on right now, lots of going on up in LSU. Wanted to get Andrew Lopez, of course, our colleague at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, covers the LSU Tigers. And which complicated story should I start off with first, Andrew? Should I mention your story on Eric Reed? Should I ask you what on planet Earth is going on with Christian Fulton? Your pick. You get the get the pick.
Just flip a coin.
All right,
flip a coin and we'll see.
I'll flip a coin. Let's start with Christian Fulton. Of course,
there we go.
He was a big-time recruit out of Rummel. And am I mistaken that he's never seen the field? Am I making that up, or has he played a little?
Yes, you absolutely are making that up. But
okay.
he did get on the field for like 3 games early. Nothing in terms of, I think, maybe early game defensive coverage. I think he was mostly a special teams guy. And then he ended up kind of breaking his wrist early in his freshman year. Would have ended up seeing a lot more time later on in the process. But he suffered a broken wrist, and now but he did play 3 games that first year.
So what is he's been off the field and away from the team, and just kind of spell out what's going on and how he's trying to fight to get back on the field through the legal channels.
Yeah, right now. So this is what's happening right now. He is under a 2-year NCAA suspension for alleged tampering with a drug test sample. per NCAA rules, that is an automatic 2-year suspension. It is one of the stiffest penalties in the NCAA rule book. The only thing would be to be permanently ineligible. So it's about as bad as you can do. The minimum of 2 years, it's black and white in the NCAA rule book. He did make the mistake and tampered with the sample, and now he sat out the first year. He's still allowed to practice and do those sorts of things, but he and his family have now, LSU's appeal was denied. LSU's appeal was brought up, denied right away, and now where he's at with it, they have a personal attorney who is trying to challenge the NCAA, and they're trying to see where they can go with things, whether they can get something done. It's pretty cut and dry to me. I think at best what you can get here is maybe just the NCAA going, all right, maybe, well, you're just looking for sympathy at this point. You're looking for, okay, well, we'll cut it down to a year and a half or something like that. It's pretty cut and dry what the NCAA rulebook says on this.
And where does that leave the secondary at LSU? Because this is a guy that I think a lot of people thought would fit right in there at cornerback and bolster that depth chart. So now how do things stand at cornerback?
For LSU, nothing has changed in their mind. This has been something they've been planning on for a while. They have thought throughout this process that he wasn't going to be able to play in 2018. So, which is why when we went to practice on Friday, or on Sunday, I should say, and we're looking at the DB depth chart, it's Greedy and Jontre Kirkland, it's Kerry Vincent, and then Manny Netherly, the converted wide receiver, playing ahead of Christian Fulton, is because they know Christian Fulton is not going to be able to play this year, barring some miraculous thing. LSU has put all of they've done everything that they can at this point. Now the family is going to look for what's called a reconsideration. There is new evidence that they are going to try and bring into this, but to me it looks kind of bleak. They're kind of just hoping for something to happen right now, but they're going to keep trying. And I can say this, talk to some other people close to this, LSU is fully behind Christian Fulton. They are not trying to get rid of him. They are going to stand behind him. They understand the kid made a mistake. And when this is all said and done and he is eligible to play again, they are going to give him in every effort to get back on the field.
Andrew Lopez covers LSU for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. All right, let's switch gears over to your great story on Eric Reed. Headline on NOLA.com, former LSU safety Eric Reed, unafraid to sacrifice NFL career for his principles. Of course, it's pretty widely known that he's been one of the primary people to take a knee in protest of racial inequality and police brutality and such things. And you had a chance to catch up with him. I know you've been working on this story for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And he's on the verge of free agency. And of course, there's been this talk of, say, teams like the Texans not wanting to bring in a guy because of this. Just the overall scope. I mean, it's a long read. If you got time to go check it out, please do, because Lopes did a great job with the story. But just what are his thoughts heading into free agency, and just the kind of the persona that people maybe think that's around him because of his protests?
Yeah, he is like we say in the headline, he is unafraid. He is not scared about what is about to happen. This has been something that he has known could happen the entire time. He watched, what happened to certain athletes, what happened to obviously Colin Kaepernick. Him and Kaepernick became very, very close over the last year. He told me they text almost daily. They talk almost daily. And he watched Colin Kaepernick sit on the sidelines last year where, you can make the argument or not, but a lot of backup quarterbacks got a chance that Colin Kaepernick was probably better than last year. And whether or not you were going to sign him because you didn't want the headache, that was a whole other issue. But Eric Reed is in that boat right now, and he is well aware that this may happen to him. He might get Kaepernick. He might not be able to play, and he's okay with that. And I think the family is also okay with that. At the same time, and this is something we didn't touch on in the story, his brother Justin Reed is one of the top safeties in the draft this year. He was a 3-year guy at Stanford, developed very quickly, and he's projected as a 2nd or 3rd round pick. You know, there was a little bit of, will somebody not touch Justin because they wouldn't touch Eric on the same sort of thing? So there's a lot going into it, but right now he's happy with it. He has made his decision. You know, you look back at some of the things that he's done over the last year. This is a guy who has been a union rep since his 2nd year in the league. You guys know that's not something that happens every day with every team, where your 2nd-year guy who's coming in there at 23 years old is your union rep for the next 4 years. He's got that covered. He showed his value this year when he played multiple positions. He was moved to linebacker. He went back to safety. This is a guy who's still got stuff in the tank at 26 years old. And, you know, he is well aware that they're not going to be coming like they were probably if, you know, he wasn't taking a knee.
You know, one of the things I think is interesting in the story, Andrew, and it's important for people to understand, because I think you do a great job of, you know, removing the veneer of just an NFL athlete, because I think it's so easy to just kind of look at these guys and not really get to know them. And so you tell the story of Eric Reid and his family, you know, his grandfather. You get into the background of what led him to make this decision. It wasn't just some fly-by-night, I think it'll be something cool to support Colin Kaepernick. You can tell Eric Reid put a lot of thought and time and consideration into what he was doing. And I think it's important for listeners to know Eric Reid's family background and how that influenced him.
Yeah, Eric Reid is I mean, he was raised by Eric Reid Sr., who was a track All-American at LSU in the 80s. His mother, Sharon Guillory Reid, who has been very involved with the NFL mothers and things of that nature. His mother was actually going to go to the Gulf War had it not been for her getting pregnant with Eric. Her brother served 25-plus years in the military. Eric's grandfather served in the military, and his 2 brothers also served, his 2 great uncles. So he comes from this background, and he touched base with them before they did that. And those members of his family, we talked to his grandfather in the story, he is very much behind what his grandson is doing. He remembers when he came back from fighting that he was still discriminated against when he got back. So this is something that is touching to them. We talk about when Eric Reid when he was in college, he's at LSU. He felt like he was racially profiled on a traffic stop where he was just trying to get back to his apartment and he was told that he blared his music by, you know, when he was going by this officer who was guarding the street because there was a concert going on nearby. So he talked about how that kind of shook him up, and he was written up for that. But it's a lot more that goes into it. And this is a guy who, when he was hosting a golf tournament in Baton Rouge every year. And during that golf tournament, it's for the Sickle Cell Anemia Foundation, the Baton Rouge Sickle Cell Anemia Foundation. And it also goes to provide for a summer camp that Breck puts on in conjunction with the foundation. And when 5 or 6 sponsors pulled out last year because they didn't want to be associated with Eric Reid, even though that they were taking away money from children, from sick children, but they were like, no, we don't want to be associated with Eric Reid. Eric Reid stepped up and paid out of his own pocket and made sure that the kids still had summer camp. He pledged $10,000 to Breck, to the organization, to make sure that happened. That's the kind of guy this is. He's not doing this just to draw attention to himself. He's doing it to draw attention to the cause, and this is why he's doing it.
Andrew Lopez's great story. Go check it out. Former LSU safety Eric Reid, unafraid to sacrifice NFL career for his principles. It's up at NOLA.com. I know it's getting traction across the internet. Make sure you go check it out. Even if you agree or disagree with his methods, I think it's worth everyone's time to go take a read, just because he's one of the greats that ever came from LSU. All right, let's switch gears real quick here. LSU taking on ULL in the NIT tomorrow night. Did I see ULL's coach basically calling out LSU, saying they want no part of us? And what's going on here? Are they
People don't do that anymore.
Are they gonna is it gonna be like on the baseball field when the two teams like brawl and in the middle of the game? What's going on?
I love it.
I don't think we're going to see any brawls tomorrow night, but it was very clear that Bob Marlin, the coach of UL, who's a great guy. I've talked to him several times and met him. We're talking the other night actually about some things that he had set up and that he was doing. He said basically this has been a thing for UL and LSU for a while, where he says as soon as Will Wade got the job, he tried to call and set a game up. It didn't happen. It didn't work. But I'm not sure if I'm Will Wade if I'd have took that game in the beginning of the year when I'm trying to build wins and get things done like that. But this is one of those rivalries that extends, way beyond the playing field, whether it's LSU fans trying to figure out if it's UL or ULL or USL or SIL or whatever name you want to call the university in Lafayette, or UL fans calling it LSU BR A&M because that's the official name of the school. It's little things.
You sound like an eye chart. I don't know what's going on.
Clyde is shaking his head because Clyde is our university name expert.
Act 14,
yeah.
bruh.
Act 14.
And I'm saying UL, not U of L, because I don't want to upset Jeff over there.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about you, and it's just one of those things where it just kind of continues and goes on and on. But it wouldn't surprise me if, especially with the way that the Cajun Dome has been renovated now. I've been in it since it's been renovated. It's very, very nice in there. They have one of the more unique courts in the country now. It's just a nice place to be. It wouldn't surprise me if now, after all this, if maybe Marlin and Wade sat down and tried to get some games going between these two schools. Obviously, UL, there's a lot more that you lose if you're LSU. You don't necessarily want to lose to that in-state school, but, if the way Marlin has his program running, a win over them is a win over a top 75 team, top 70 team in the country. They just won 27 games this year. So if you can get a win over them, it will still help you out. And foster a little bit of a relationship in state. So it kind of helps.
Yeah, do it. I mean, if you want to compete, it's what athletics are about, competition. I don't think Will Wade's scared of anybody. And that team he's going to have next year, I don't think they should be scared of anybody.
I don't know if UL is going to want to get into that game next year.
That's what I'm saying. They may back out after that. But I love this little rivalry. Bob Marlin, you're right. I've covered him for years, and he is that kind of guy, and I bet his players love playing for him. And I bet it's going to be a great environment, don't you, Andrew? Even though it's NIT, you got this little rivalry. I think it's going to be exceptional.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great night. You're going to have Lafayette. Cajun fans travel very well. You remember looking at them in the Dome for New Orleans Bowl all those years. They travel well, and I think they're going to fill up part of the PMAC the other night. You have a baseball game going on Wednesday night in Baton Rouge as well, but I think what you're going to see is a lot of people in there. Ron Higgins is going to have coverage on that. I'm going to be somewhere in California at that point during the game, but it'll still be an atmosphere. And I'm going to find a way to watch it on a Watch ESPN app somewhere out on the West Coast.
There you go. Andrew Lopez, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, covers LSU. Hey, bud, great job, great story again on Eric Reed. And again, I recommend, if you agree or disagree with his methods of protest, it is worth your time reading. So, hey, Andrew, appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Lopes.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Short final segment of hour number 1 coming up, but the rest of the show is going to be Saints. If we squeeze in some Pelicans, we do, but all Saints today. Drew Brees getting a deal done. Delvin Breaux looking to be on his way out potentially. Willie Snead sticking around unless another team comes and tries to pluck him.
What do you think the chances are that Drew Brees might get a little intro at the Pels game tonight? What do you think?
Small likelihood. As in,
like, happen.
Absolute likelihood. Absolutely. So, all right, we'll be talking that and getting your phone calls, 504-260-1280. So come on back here on Sports 1280. NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Josh and his morning. We've ordered some extra strong coffee and took away his Bailey's Irish cream. Josh and his morning 6 to 10.
You get the point on Sports 12.
Oh, got you. Yeah, the text was good.
Yeah.
Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town. Fresh Louisiana seafood as well as delicious Italian dishes. Try our daily chef specials. Or an overstuffed burger. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 9
Garland
p.m.
and
with 2
Fox 8 are
locations
coming
to serve.
here
In
right
Bucktown
at noon.
1001 Live Oak between Bonneville and Lake Avenue, or in Kenner at
Breeze or something?
910 West Esplanade at Chateau Boulevard.
I don't know.
Let Mr. Ed's
Texted
cater
me
your
and
next
said, "Can you
event."
can you
Mr.
do
Ed's
something
Seafood
right
and
for the
Italian
show?
Restaurant. 2 great locations, 1 great menu. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and
I don't know,
Fishing.
how are they
now
gonna
open
get
the
in?
port
Do they know how to
7
get in?
days a
I guess they
week,
do.
512 Bienville.
People who name their savings accounts save more than those who don't. The following was inspired by a Navy Federal Credit Union savings account named Family Vacation.
This was such a good call.
Oh, we needed this.
Really?
What do you think the kids are up to?
We need to cancel that. I need to write.
What was that? I don't think I remember that. Did I
Navy
put that on
Federal
my...
Credit Union. Give a name to what you say. NavyFederal.org. Open to everyone in the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Federally insured by NCUA.
I've got it right. We've
At
got
CVS
stuff.
Pharmacy at Target, we put a little extra heart into everything
Till
we do.
next week, till I
like
get back.
actively
Oh,
looking to save
Dave.
you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5 Target
Are
coupon
we
for
able
every
to
10
start
prescriptions.
using
On your
the
next Target
studio
run,
back
stop
at
by
iHeart
CVS
starting
Pharmacy.
Friday?
We're the place with the
'Cause I
big
think
heart.
they're tearing up
Not
our
valid
set.
on all prescriptions.
On this Friday?
Yeah.
Literally 4 days from now.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be a tight fit because our studios are tore up too.
Oh no.
Now the in studios, the talk studios are intact.
Okay.
It's just that they literally moved my office into the RNO talk studio and they put Angie's computer in there too. So we got it's a little claustrophobic.
Okay.
But
We'll get to
I don't know.
friends.
I just did a show Saturday with me and another guy, so it ain't that big a deal.
All right.
It's just not ideal. It's a little cramped in the desk-based area, but it's fine.
Okay.
It's just the whole building looks like crap on a cracker.
So we would be like, we'd probably be in there all next week too.
I don't know when we're gonna not be in there.
Until we can figure out if we have room for a studio in our
wise
new
to keep
office.
records of any kind.
All right, so this Friday.
And moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually supposed to have drinks tonight with. Let's see.
You do need to have some documentation. It's
With
not
who?
always the
You don't know who
same.
it is?
Somebody, Mark, somebody
Mark
with NOLA.com? Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Oh.
Your tax practitioner, you know.
That's because I'm sneaky like that.
Yeah, clearly.
Me and Michael Hudson.
Oh, good. Okay.
All right. Well, then
So
that's
yeah, we're
be a
gonna
good meeting.
you will be a prime topic of conversation. I'll be like, yeah, these guys are total d-bags.
Cool.
Get rid of them.
That's what you need to hear, man.
Especially that loudmouth Clyde.
Oh, hey, yeah, that's a great. You'll be able to get straight from the horse's mouth
to provide proof of donation.
what our situation is, because he runs our newsroom.
Oh, okay.
So
do not qualify.
Anything you want me to bring up?
no.
Let's talk.
Well, I mean,
Clyde needs a raise. That's what we have to talk about. It's a big raise.
we need a.
and some health insurance because he's sick.
We're good on the insurance. Just need the rest of the money to cover my co-pays.
Word.
/radio. That's compassion.
I come back.
/radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Oh, yeah!
This has been talked about a decent bit. Drew Brees has a new contract. Last I checked, and now Adam Schefter, of course, of ESPN, reporting that Kirk Cousins plans to sign a 3-year, fully guaranteed contract from the Minnesota Vikings.
Whoa.
And that has been the word around those contract talks. So Case Keenum's already gone to Denver, reportedly. Now Cousins will end up in the Vikings. And
quarterback roulette.
Let me tell you, it seems like the richer keep getting richer in Minnesota. But I'm curious just to see how much better Kirk Cousins actually is than Case Keenum, because I'm not sold he's that much better than Case Keenum. I'm just not completely sold.
Basically, they're saying he's going to be roughly $12 million better per year, because I think Keenum got $18 million. I think that's what I heard. So if you're going to go around 30 for Cousins, you're saying he's basically almost twice as good. I'm with you on that.
I would spend a little more and probably have kept Case Keenum, but that's just me, and we'll see. I mean, look, the Saints will be playing Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, so we'll see firsthand just how that is. But of course, the big, gigantic, huge, humongous news of the day is that Dave back at iHeart Central can put away his stopwatch. We don't have to hear that ever again.
I referenced the stopwatch in yesterday's post, by the way, the second post.
You know what? You also referenced my BFF.
Yeah, right.
And she appreciated the shout out.
Yes!
Diana Rossini.
Awesome!
He mentioned her as being my BFF.
Oh
Brandon, New Orleans.
Yeah, let's go to the phone
I was
lines.
really hoping. Larry, I was so happy to hear that. Yes!
Look how happy
Yes!
Todd got out of his sick stupor. So, all right, let's hit a quick phone call before we hit the top of the hour break. Dave, who do we have?
Brandon, New Orleans.
Brandon in New Orleans. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
What's going on, man? I get Willie Snead.
Yeah, we only got 2 minutes.
Yeah, after his 4-game suspension, but why do Delvin Breaux like that? He got injured. He had a great year before. The medical team messed that up. So why not re-sign him?
And appreciate the phone call real
That's
quick.
a really good question.
Look, we've been talking about that, and me just acting as if I were Delvin Breaux. It seems like they kind of soured on him, and you could see when the injury happened and the report leaked that they were going to trade him, and then, oh, by the way, he actually has a broken leg, and whoever leaked the report, which we could all assume came from someone inside of Airline Drive, it made him look foolish, and I think the Saints were just ready to move on from the situation, and obviously we're hearing that they're in the market for a corner. Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, Malcolm Butler, I think they might look at Jermaine Johnson, Aaron Colvin. They're in the market for a corner, but it's not going to be Delvin Breaux.
And they need to be.
Yes.
They need to be. They need another corner. I know everybody loves the story of King Crawley, but I'm with you, Larry. I'm not sold on him being a starting corner in this league. He made great progress, great improvement, but he's still rough around the edges.
Yep. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. In about 20 minutes or so, we'll talk with Brett Marcel of the Associated Press, of course, about this Drew Brees deal and what could be next. Maybe we'll dive into some Pelicans as well, which I'm sure he'll be covering tonight's game for the Associated Press. So we'll do that and take your phone calls about Saints free agency, hot and heavy. Drew Brees not going anywhere. No more panic. So come on back. Sports 1280.
10 seconds.
NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Time for some Rice Krispie treats.
Uh-oh.
You need to diversify your diet, bro.
Sometimes he has little
well, the granola bars are good. That's good.
Make
healthy,
updates indoors and safe this spring at Lowe's. Make refreshing updates to your bath with up to 15% off select Peerless bath faucets, available in a variety of styles and finishes. And update your flooring with fashionable wood look tiles starting at 99 cents a square foot. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through March 14th while supplies last. See store for details.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put a little extra heart into everything we do, like actively looking to save you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5 Target coupon for every 10 prescriptions. On your next Target run, buy CVS Pharmacy. We're the place with the big heart. Not valid on all prescriptions, including those purchased in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Other restrictions apply. See CVS.com/EpicareTarget or the pharmacy for details. CVS Pharmacy at Target.
We got Steve in Dallas. Steve in Dallas. I don't know. We'll see if he's still holding on after the break.
Hey, wait. Hey, Dave. Hey, hold on. Say that again. The guy just wanted to get something to drink.
We got Steve in Dallas, but I don't know. We'll see if he holds on to this whole break because it's like 5.5, 6 minutes.
Okay,
Steve off and running. Teams negotiations until Wednesday afternoon, but negotiations are happening, and that means quarterback news. The latest is suggesting that Kirk Cousins could be signing with the Minnesota Vikings on a deal worth a reported $86 million over 3 years. The entire thing might even be guaranteed. Case Keenum is going to the Denver Broncos, while Drew Brees agreeing to a 2-year deal worth $50 million to stay in New Orleans. Sammy Watkins agreeing to a 3-year deal worth $48 million with Kansas City. Chicago adding Jacksonville wide receiver Allen Robinson, while the Jags bring in Carolina guard Andrew Norwell. Buffalo's traded left tackle Cordy Glenn to Cincinnati. They're moving up in the draft from number 21 to number 12. And Miami signed former Kansas City receiver Albert Wilson. I'm Ralph Irvin.
Your shot at $1,000 now.
He's 18 years younger.
Money to 200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's money to 200.
Howdy folks, Colonel Sanders here to tell you about KFC's $10 chicken shares. They're perfect to share with those special people in your life. Choose from 6 pieces of my Kentucky Fried Chicken, 9 extra crispy tenders, 12 hot wings, or a bunch of popcorn nuggets. So grab your buddy, your cousin, your dad, your college roommate, or my friend Joan, and head to KFC. Are you there yet? Okay, good. Now get to sharing and eating. KFC's $10 chicken shares. It's finger-licking good.
At participating KFCs only. Hot wings not available at all locations. Prices may vary. Tax and substitutions extra.
Josh Innes, morning 6 to 10 on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
We're remembering Chief Wahoo.
Yes, apparently.
And the good times he brought us.
Didn't eclipse 30 mil.
Who's going to cry at trash on the highway now?
Who's going to do it?
28.3
Weren't there used to be fights outside of Indians games?
Still the highest paid,
People
right?
that had, their side.
If they just would have shared the peace pipe, everything would have been better. I stand with Chief Wahoo. Hashtag justice for Wahoo. What? Why did you never ask what Chief Wahoo feels about this?
All kinds of craziness going on.
You know damn good
Trump,
well
White
Chief
House
Wahoo likes
crazy.
his job.
Yeah, well, the White House has been
Someone's
crazy.
got their megaphone.
Let's not pretend that that's something that's new.
It's just the newest day of crazy.
Yeah, it's just the newest day of crazy.
Why is he offensive to you, white lady?
What about the Russians poisoning that dude spy? It's like something out of the 1920s or something.
Dude, between that and between the story about him,
What privilege did you have?
about Putin having that journalist killed a few back, man.
We made him a caricature.
Oh man, well did y'all see? Y'all need to watch
This guy's in a Cowboys jacket and he's yelling.
He's
documentary.
upset.
It
He's
won
like, what's
the best.
next? You're gonna
It
take
won the
away the
Oscar for
Cowboys
best
too? They're the
documentary.
ones that got you.
Oh yes, it was.
That's great.
Yeah,
dude.
Talking about on
Netflix.
The drug?
Yeah, Russian dope.
Yeah, the guy was drugging
It would have
himself
been
over.
the biggest
and then the
takeover in
story
the tech
turned
business
from
ever,
that
but
to
it's not to be. President Trump is blocking
like,
Broadcom's hostile takeover bid
watching
of
it later.
$117
got
billion
rave reviews.
for
Yeah,
computer
that's
chip
why it
maker
won Best
Qualcomm. The
Documentary.
Committee on
Yeah.
Foreign Investment
I watched it. I was
The fact that it's
this is amazing that this
saying
story went from
Singapore-based
this
Broadcom
to-
likely cut costs at San Diego's
Oh my
Qualcomm,
gosh.
slowing its R&D efforts
unbelievable.
and giving Chinese telecom companies a
felt like I
competitive
was gonna wanna
advantage over
come
the
in and
United
talk
States
about it
in
the day
establishing
after, and I,
5G service.
forgot.
You
Oh,
may
the
have seen
Maravich thing was
colorful
really good.
bicycles on
I thought
San
that guy did a
Diego's
really
college
good job.
campuses.
Yeah.
in
We
Lee
talked to a
wondered
lot
where
of
they
people
came
from
from.
it.
It's a nationwide launch
Yeah.
from dockless bike
And I
share
mean,
companies
it got picked
aiming
up
to
like
take
that,
on
like,
Uber
usually
with a
LSU stuff
green and
doesn't get picked up
affordable
well
transportation
on,
option. But since the bikes can be left
on,
anywhere,
like,
they often
whenever I
are.
do a post,
Renting
like,
a
unless
bike
it's
is
about, like,
pretty easy.
football,
You
but
just
that
use an
one-
app to scan a
got people
QR
all
code.
Ron chimed
The
in.
bike
Ron
unlocks,
texted me and goes,
and you're good to go.
that guy said he was
Now,
6'6".
get
He
your final
never was over
destination.
6'5". Because I'm a
Anywhere
Maravich
you want.
authority.
Therein lies the problem.
Not surprised by that.
The rental
Everybody
ends
from
as soon as you lock it.
Oh yeah.
And users
Love
are
Maravich.
encouraged to park
Oh, my
right
dad is like in
Some
love.
don't.
People are just leaving them all over the sidewalk, and they look like litter.
The bikes can end up blocking walkways, going for a swim, even used for a prank.
I guess it's called getting biked.
Yeah, you get biked, I guess. This Texas family woke up to 14 locked Lime bikes parked on their front lawn.
The company tells NBC's Liz McLaughlin it has teams out patrolling, making sure
crazy?
their bikes are
That's
properly parked.
insane.
And what are consumers most worried about when it comes to their pocketbook this
Three of the
year?
biggest
A
sports
new
figures in
poll
our
from
region,
Lending Tree
probably.
says 43% of Americans
1 minute.
about unexpected expenses.
Oh, we have a caller.
34%.
Yeah, Steve in Dallas. He's still on one.
All right.
Healthcare costs are the most concerning issue for 29%.
Oh,
of
the
consumers,
crazies have
and
come out on Eric
18%
Reed
worried
stuff.
about the
I've
new tax
tweeted.
changes. The good news is that about 67%
Yeah,
of
one person
Americans
did.
do
I
expect
blocked
their
him
finances
immediately. I was
to
like, I'm
improve
not-
this year.
not-
Consumer and Business News, Joe
like
McConnell,
cursing. I'm
NBC
like,
News Radio.
Got no
It
time
only
for that.
takes
Yeah.
a minute to
Anybody
find
starts
out if you
cursing,
may
it's
have
over.
pre-diabetes, and you can do it at Do I Have Pre-Diabetes?
I have two rules on trolls.
You're probably not going to,
Get,
are you? Kids,
vulgar,
listening
or
to
you
radio.
are a troll
You're
100% of the time.
Which is great because busy people can't
Like,
get
that's all you do?
pre-diabetes. Oh my! I read
I don't
that
need that.
wrong. They can.
Yeah, well, I guess vulgar. I'm all like.
So visit
'cause they can drop,
doihaveprediabetes.org and take a
curse
short
or drop,
test
like,
because
homophobic
pre-diabetes
slurs
can
and
be
all this stuff.
reversed.
I'm like,
Brought to you by the
Yeah, you're
Apple,
done.
and it's
Like, I can even handle a curse word, but if you're like cursing at me,
yeah.
you're done.
Right.
You're done.
Dunc and Holder on a No Panic Tuesday. Put your panic buttons away. Put away the clock because the clock has struck Drew Brees' contract deal. Saints, Drew Brees, 2 years, reportedly $50 million. And I'm curious to see the structure of the contract because, of course, the big issue was the looming dead money that was attached to this contract, given that if they didn't get a deal done by 3 p.m. tomorrow, an $18 million cap charge would be attached. So now they'll just push more money down the road, and
that's what they do.
Live life, and they've done that way for years and years. Even when they were winning Super Bowls or only 7-9, their strategy has never changed, and it's not going to change now, especially with the window of opportunity still quite ajar with this team. And you knew the deal was going to happen, Jeff. We all knew it. I like causing panic when it's not really actually panic yet.
I know you're good at it.
When real panic comes, that's not good. So I only like to cause panic when there's actually no real panic to be had. Just to be fun.
You're like a human air raid siren. Just take you and
like a bomb's coming.
Larry Holder.
Larry is the Hawaiian Office of Emergency Preparedness who sent out the emergency alert for incoming missiles, knowing there was no incoming missiles because he hit the wrong button guy.
Right. It's like
the Hawaii story.
The fake tsunami button.
Yeah. You're that dude.
I would hesitate to say this, but I guess we don't know when's Drew Brees going to get the contract after this contract signed. We haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, well, I mean,
start the clock ticking.
Well, clearly, as we've become accustomed to in New Orleans, like we are a city, unfortunately, of Band-Aids, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, in 2 years. I mean, but we got it done now. That's all that matters.
Well, as long as they can win it all within that 2-year span, who the hell cares when they get to it? Honestly,
that's a very good point. That's a great analogy. I look at it like how we fix our streets here. They never tear up the entire street.
They put a cone in it.
Or they come through with that pothole truck.
Yeah.
And they just fill it up with this gravelly thing.
They dump kitty litter in the street, and it's prepared.
And it's we got it done.
That's
what we do with the Breeze contract.
It's just a short bit of asphalt, but instead of just like paving it over and making sure that's compact, they just overfill it and then just make a larger bump so that when your car goes over it, you still feel it there, regardless of whether now instead of going into it, you actually just roll over it and your suspension still fills up.
My favorite is the sewage and water board trench that's cut perpendicular across the street and filled with just like river sand, and of course that washes out after like 5 minutes, and then you hit this trench with your axle. I mean, it's amazing that we allow this stuff to go on. Don't get me on my rant. I somehow veered into it.
I'm going to make some bizarre segue into, guess what? The Saints at least put some concrete in their trench for a little while, at least quick dry concrete for a couple of years, as Drew Brees not going anywhere. Obviously, huge news heading into free agency. And just in case you missed it in hour number 1 and haven't really been catching up on the reporting of it, I'll just give you some of the tidbits that we've discussed here. Drew Brees' deal is written as a 2-year deal, but in actuality will be a 1-year deal with a team option. This is according to Adam Schefter. And it's a similar contract that Peyton Manning went with, the style of the contract, when he went to Denver. Obviously, the price tag is a little higher because there's none of these injury concerns, and Drew Brees is still playing at a Pro Bowl, All-Pro level. So you've got that, according to Jay Glazer. The Saints now know what they're going with in the salary cap. They want a 3 technique, which is a defensive tackle, a defensive back. They've already got Kurt Coleman, and he spoke to the media actually today. Crazy timing for that. He spoke to the local media. But they're looking for a cornerback, which is something we've pointed out for weeks and months that they would be in the market for that. But Jimmy Graham reunion is the top priority if they can pull it off. That's according to Jay Glazer. And if you're a savvy Saints fan, you know exactly who that's coming from as far as the information. So take it to the bank that's what the Saints are looking to do right now.
Yeah, and look, Jimmy Graham is repped by Jimmy Sexton, who is one of the best in the business, and when information leaks out on his clients, it's usually spot on. He's not in the business of putting out false rumors, so I would expect that's going to happen. I'll be shocked, especially because we know Jimmy Graham is interested in coming back here. At one time, we weren't sure of that. Now reports have leaked out, yes, there's mutual interest. To me, that makes it almost like a likelihood.
Yeah, our own Josh Katzenstein was all over that initial reporting, and that's only caught fire as we've gone forward, because just look at, say, the tight end market. Trey Burton is seemingly flying off the board. He was one of the younger tight ends Cameron Brate, we forgot to even mention him. He re-upped with Tampa. He was going to be a restricted free agent, but he signed a long-term deal, and I think that contract was around $7 million a year. The Trey Burton deal sounds like it's going to be 4 years, $32 million. That's $8 million a year. Does Jimmy go above that, or does Jimmy kind of get in around that? I don't think the Saints want to go anywhere near what they had to pay originally for him when they gave him the long-term deal, which only lasted 2 years since they traded him. But it was 4 years, $40 million. So I
think he's got to go above that.
You would think he would.
I mean, Trey Burton's the number 2.
You would think he would go above Burton.
He's a young guy, and I think they see him as a potential future star. I mean, he's the guy. Isn't he the one that threw the touchdown pass in the Super Bowl?
Yes, to Nick Foles.
Right, but Burton is young, and he's the kind of free agent you want to get. He's 26 years old. But he was number 2 to Zach Ertz. So they're projecting him out to be a starter. But Jimmy Graham's got skins on the wall and a much more decorated career. I think he's going to command well above that.
And look, Drew Brees spoke with ESPN's Mike Triplett, of course, former colleague here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune of ours. And Drew asked him about Jimmy Graham, and he said, all I'll say is I would love nothing more than to have Jimmy back. He'd be even better fit now than he was when he first started with us. And Jeff, this isn't the first time we've heard a better fit. I completely agree that Jimmy Graham would fit right back in with the Saints. I've already written it saying it makes too much sense for a deal not to get done now. With this way this Drew Brees contract is structured, how much money are they going to have in their pot? And it sounds like if the Saints are targeting a defensive tackle, a corner, and Jimmy Graham, it sounds like they've got money and flexibility to spare. Also, we haven't even mentioned a little bit at all Zach Strief retiring. We haven't even really talked about that too much. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday.
Not about that.
And you do gain cap space because Zach Strief retires. I mean, that's just kind of part of it. But, yeah, it sounds like Drew Brees taking significantly less than he would have gotten
Dallas
market value. So, let's hit the phone lines, 504-260-1280. Let's go to Dallas and talk with Steve. Hey, Steve, thanks for holding on. Appreciate the call. What you got?
Well, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Sure.
I had a question and a couple of comments regarding tight ends. If by chance we miss out on Graham, I do think Graham would be a great pickup, especially red zone target. I've not read or heard anything on the internet about the dispute with Nick Fairley. That's about $7 million potentially that we could get back, but yet there's been no news, nowhere to be found. I don't know what the CBA has to say about that, the timelines for that, but if we're not given a decision by tomorrow, it seems like we're at a competitive disadvantage. Now, as far as the tight ends, we don't. What about Austin Siberian-Jenkins, 25 years old with the Jets? I think he had like 45 catches and some meager 400 yards. And also, what's it, Dickinson, tight end for the Panthers?
Ed Dixon, yes, Ed Dixon.
Yeah. What about him? I mean, he's a very young, athletic, and he's going to be cheap. So your thoughts on those comments, if I could stay on the line and hear what you have to say, it'd be great.
Yeah, hey, Steve. Yeah, absolutely. As far as Nick Fairley, I think the Saints and the Fairley camp are just still kind of trying to battle that thing out right now.
Right.
His cap number, he has dead money. I think it's $6 million. That's according to Over the Cap, and so.com. And it does. I know the last time our reporters were able to catch up with Mickey Loomis, and he said that there's really been no resolution. So yeah, it does kind of put you behind the eight ball, and it's not apples to apples, but it was a similar situation when the Saints were waiting on the NFL to see if they would ever suspend Junior Galette, and they waited and waited and waited, and nothing ever happened, and they just cut him and ate the money. And so that was they're basically in a holding pattern with that. So that money's already accounted for, and they have to just move forward with that being on the books as of right now.
And Steve, just to clarify, I mean, Ed Dixon isn't that young. I mean, he's 30 years old. He's actually older than Jimmy Graham, I think. So he's a guy that I think would be a backup plan, to be honest with you. I mean, Jimmy Graham is another level player at that position. He's going to command a lot more money, but he's much more of a playmaker. He's familiar with the system. They're familiar with him. So he's got to be their top priority right now. You mentioned Austin Seferian-Jenkins. I think he's going to end up back in Seattle. As we mentioned yesterday, He's a University of Washington product. He's already, I think, even tweeted out something or on Instagram saying, would love to go back home. I think the Falcons are also interested in him. They're in the tight end market as well. So I would think right now all signs point to Jimmy Graham in New Orleans. And these other things would be backup plans.
And I know the reported interest out there is also with Green Bay. So obviously
Correct.
Jimmy Graham is either going to want to get the ball thrown to him by Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees. Yeah, that makes
pretty good option.
Makes some sense there. But yeah, hey, appreciate the phone call, Steve, and appreciate you hanging on. But yeah, again, lots to talk about. Why don't we take a break right here on the show, and when we get back, we will continue this conversation with Brett Martell of the Associated Press, of course. Covers all things Saints. Pelicans, they hit the court again tonight. They're taking on Charlotte at home, correct?
Yes, correct.
Since my
Hornets.
My brain is so been into the Saints right now.
It's been a crazy morning, man.
It's been a wild morning, and we'll probably only get a little wilder as the day moves on. Since you're past the Drew Brees news, now you're looking to see what else comes up. But we'll talk with Brett Martell, the Associated Press, coming up here next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Trying to get us out of this meeting.
I mean, we got to. I don't think we have the time.
With up to 16 chances a day, every weekday to win.
I don't have Brett's number.
Oh,
would need to listen.
I'm a smart speaker, and I agree.
The keyword to text and win comes at the top of the hour.
The smart money is on.
Who's supposed to be at this meeting?
New Orleans.
I can tell you.
The monkey board.
Hey, I don't have Brett Martell's number.
Yeah, he's said it too.
I'm a set it too.
Okay.
5 till they run out. $25 gets you 3 pounds of crawfish and 2 local draft beers. It'll be anything but generic this Friday at the monkey board on the Troubadour's rooftop.
This is Smart Hacks for your smart speakers. I'm Stacey Welter. Did you know that Alexa will read bedtime stories to your child? Yeah, just say, Alexa, tell bedtime story to Billy, and you can both sit back until one of you falls asleep.
Once upon a time.
Alexa also connects
Same
your
age,
favorite
Graham and
live radio
Dixon are the
station
same
with
age.
iHeartRadio. Tell Alexa to play your favorite iHeartRadio station, like this. Alexa,
I mean, is it going to be like Lorando and Carolyn?
iHeartRadio has all your favorite music and radio on your smart speaker.
Mark,
This has been
Carolyn.
Smart Hacks for your
For
smart
1
speakers.
o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
All right, I just sent it.
They might just want to.
Text. There it is. Okay.
They might just want to get the lay of the land from us before he goes to meet.
Yeah. I mean, if we can make it quick, then.
Yeah, maybe just stop in there or something instead of a full-blown meeting. Or I can do it.
Get 2 naked egg tacos for just $3.49.
Yeah, I know, you got it right.
Breakfast you love
And
wrapped in a fried egg shell. Only at Taco Bell. Participating stores for a limited time.
You got it right,
Prices
and
may vary, tax extra.
Clyde's got to die. So
Yeah, I've got to
find a
resurrect.
proper place to die.
Signed with the Denver Broncos once free agency begins
kinda
on
wore off.
Wednesday.
The magic wore off.
11-3
well, I mean,
14
eventually
regular
that
season
was
starts
gonna
for
happen.
Minnesota, while leading them to the NFC title game against
All right, we got Brett.
22 TD
Oh,
passes.
great. We got
and
Brett.
Hey.
So, hey, what, you got to have a meeting about the meeting that we're going to have
Yeah,
tonight?
I think so.
Possibly.
That's
yes.
awesome.
We're going to warn him.
Last-minute
The
snacks.
bald guy with glasses.
Yeah.
Don't trust him.
Yes.
Especially after he drinks.
Ask him about This Week in Geek.
Takes on you
Yeah.
Yeah.
to the NBA, where the Houston Rockets cruise
Or ask me about PSAs. I love the community.
I love the community.
The public. I love the public.
I love the public. The plebes. I love the
I
plebes.
serve the public with my public service.
Elsewhere, the Thunder outlast the Kings 106-101, Portland 115, Miami 99.
So did you see
Milwaukee
San
over
Antonio's
Memphis
now out of the
121-103.
Dude, that was
Yeah, I saw that.
Joel Stern,
They're now
NBC
out.
News Radio.
Yeah.
Question.
They're not going to make
When
it.
you walk into
They're
the
terrible.
boardrooms of the
Yeah.
most successful
I guess if they get Kawhi back, but apparently
if Kawhi comes back,
men and women
if Kawhi comes
high
back
school
on
sports.
Thursday,
You see
Education-based
where,
high
like,
school sports give
the
us
Pels
more
gotta
than
go to
athletes
San
we can root
Antonio
for.
here in a few
They
days,
give us
I think, like a
leaders
week.
we can depend on.
They just played there.
Question. So
What
where will we
kind of
find
NBA
tomorrow's
schedule? Who's
leaders?
doing the schedule?
Answer. High school
NBA.
sports.
Weird.
This message presented by the Louisiana High School
All right, coming back.
Nation and the Louisiana High School Athletic Directors
Texans exploring
Association.
Malcolm Butler options.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back to the show. If you missed any of it, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube page, and of course Clyde does our updates on NOLA.com.
which Diana Rossini is reading. That's so awesome.
Hey, real quick, just to get into this, we got a little notice from Steve Worthy and Tom Long. Justin Thomas, the world's #2 player, has committed to the upcoming Zurich Classic. He's going to team with fellow University of Alabama alum Bud Cauley. So that's good news. Justin Thomas, one of the great young players on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure he will be covering this as well because he covers everything. I think he puts his own body in about 4 different places because around that time of the year he's got to be. Brett Martell, the Associated Press, of course, writes here in New Orleans and covers the state and the Saints. And Brett, you knew it all along. Drew Brees, no problem. No panic from you. I mean, you're always cool, calm, and mellow, so you probably just said, another day for work for you.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know. It seems like a lot of our business is driven by speculation that can be very interesting and intriguing, but not always realistic. And it seemed pretty evident to me that Drew Brees wasn't interested in going anywhere, and the Saints are interested in having him back. So I think it's the least surprising news of the season so far.
That's exactly what I said earlier. It would have been news if he wouldn't have signed, in my opinion, because I think everyone expected him to get this done either Monday or Tuesday. And I actually think him being out there for Zach Streif's press conference yesterday showing support to his former teammate, I think that also, though, was a very good sign that progress had been made. I don't think Drew would have been there if there was some kind of breakdown in talks or lack of progress or if there was some negotiating ploy going on. That indicated to me that he felt good about the direction that he was in the same room with Mickey Loomis, So, and I understand right now, Drew Brees is out at the Saints facility right now as we speak. So he might be getting this thing signed today so they can move forward. So Brett, now, anything about this deal, the parameters that have been reported, surprise you? The makeup of the deal, any of the, the terms that have been reported out there surprise you in any way?
Well, I thought there was a chance it would go for 3 years, But, this basically takes him to age 40 and that's it. So, I thought it might go an additional year. But, beyond that, I expected it to be relatively cap-friendly, somewhat of a hometown discount, but not to the point where he would be exploited relative to the market. So, I'm not that surprised by any of it.
Yeah, you sound real excited, too. You sound enthused about the news.
Why are you gonna let Jeff needle you? What's up with that? Don't let him. Don't stand for that, Brett.
Yeah. It's. I guess maybe I've been doing this for 20-something years, and I don't get excited about much. But I think if I were a Saints fan, it would be very good news because even though last season was his least productive year with the Saints in terms of yards passing, clearly he was still very effective. He broke the record for completion percentage in the season at 72%. The offense ranked second in the league, and for all intents and purposes, they made it to the NFC Championship game, except for a technicality on a miracle play at the end of the Vikings game. So, they're definitely going in the right direction. He remains highly productive. There's precedent with Tom Brady of a guy older than him playing at an extremely high level and getting a team to the Super Bowl. So, I don't see why a Saints fan would be interested in having gone a different direction from Drew Brees at this point.
Brett Martell, the Associated Press, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Oh, by the way, Drew Brees tweeting 17 minutes ago, "Go Saints and go Purdue, Boiler football, black and gold for life, who dat?" I'm guessing that is as public of a confirmation that he won't be going anywhere. But as far as where the Saints go forward, we've talked a lot about Jimmy Graham. I'll just put that name out there. How much do you think it makes sense to bring Jimmy Graham back?
I think it makes sense if the money makes sense, but I don't see why that's necessarily a priority. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of like a luxury because you're talking again about an offense that would love to have him and make great use of him, but clearly doesn't need him to be productive because they've remained an elite offense without him. In addition to that, I would fully expect if he's healthy for him to be about as productive as he was here before, but it raises questions. You have to at least be asking the question, why wasn't he that productive in Seattle? Obviously, part of it is injury related. So, but when he was healthy, even, he didn't quite seem to be the type of game breaker that he was, in his final couple seasons in New Orleans. So, I think it just depends how free agency works out and how they view their draft board, but they have other priorities.
Let's switch gears real quick. Get your thoughts on the Pelicans. I will be at the Smoothie King Center tonight. I assume you're going to be there. What's your thoughts on this 2-game losing streak? Is that concern for Pelicans fans, or is it just a product or a byproduct of not having your franchise player AD for one of those games? Kind of what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the sample size is a little too small to be concerned. And the reason has to do a little bit not only with the fact that AD didn't play in the first loss, where basically, they're coming off a 10-game winning streak. I mean, at some point you just kind of run out of gas. A lot of times you see NBA teams, when they have a significant personnel change in the lineup, they do poorly the next game because the NBA game is so chemistry-oriented. But in the loss, when AD came back, I mean, AD looked great, and they had the lead in the third quarter. But let's face it, Utah has won 18 out of 20 games. And, they had some guys playing really well down the stretch in that game. And I don't think that's a devastating loss when you lose to a team that also crushed the Warriors during the last month, and have beaten a lot of good teams. So it just it could be the beginning of a disconcerting slide, but I think the sample size is too small right now. Now, if they lose to a team tonight that's lost 5 out of 6 games coming in, and the only game they won was against lowly Phoenix, then you start to worry.
Brett Martelli, Associated Press, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Any word on if/when Solomon Hill will get back on the court?
Yeah, that's been kind of disappointing because it seems still very up in the air. He's been, he came back a while ago from Los Angeles and has been at the facility and working on the side with assistants and getting up shots. But there's no clear sign that he's coming back imminently. And, I'm not exactly sure where the caution lies with that. I think those are questions we just have to keep pushing and asking and trying to get, more definitive answers. There could be just an abundance of caution, thinking that, well, it looks like we're on track for the playoffs, and we're going to have any chance of maybe a second or round upset in the playoffs. We're going to have this guy, at peak physical performance, playing defense to kind of, keep the opponent's scores down a little bit. And, that could really tip the balance in an NBA game. I mean, he's not going to be a huge difference maker, but if they're relatively competitive against their, first or second round opponents, having a guy like Solomon Hill could make a big difference, especially locking down team scores at the end of games.
Brett Martelli, Associated Press. He will be covering the Pelicans Charlotte Hornets game tonight and covering all things Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Nicholls State, badminton. He covers it all.
Hey.
He gets over
We don't have a badminton, but we do have a bass fishing team.
Hey, close enough.
We got a rugby team, too.
That's true.
There you go.
Me and Brett can go to Starkville together. You want to ride with me, bud?
Maybe. I've never actually covered badminton. The closest I ever came was I went to, I had finished my rowing assignment in Athens, Greece, and I went to a field hockey game, and the badminton venue was right next door, and I actually saw the little Olympic logo for badminton, and I, instead went to a field hockey game where I saw South Korean girl get hit in the head with like a field hockey ball.
Knew it.
Get knocked out. It was Holland against South Korea, and the defensewoman was like golfing it out of the defensive zone, and she blasted it. I mean, it was a shot to the head. It was really disturbing. But other than that, that's my closest experience with badminton.
Okay.
Close enough, Brett.
Didn't expect that, did you, Clyde?
No, did not expect
No, but I'm glad I asked the question.
That story to
That's
turn in
what I
that
do.
direction. Hey, Brett, appreciate the time, buddy.
Okay, take care.
All right, that's Brett Martell of the Associated Press. So,
such a worldly fellow.
There he goes. Yep. Oh, when I was in Athens, Greece. When I was
rowing in Athens.
When I was cruising around Luxembourg,
Yeah,
That's Brett Martell for you.
When I went to the Parthenon.
That's why he's Brett the Model Martell after Rick the Model Martell. That's
He did pep up a little bit, too, after a while.
Once you needled him, yeah.
I mean, I thought he was going to fall asleep on us in the middle of the interview.
Well, it's been a long morning already, so.
He might not have had his coffee.
There we go. All right, let's take a break right here in the show. When we get back, of course, we'll be talking more Saints free agency. Yeah, if you haven't heard, Drew Brees not going anywhere. And who else might be coming? We'll talk more about that next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
I'm sending Carolina Market.
Yeah, your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Boomtown Casino and Hotel.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. A beautiful day today, breezy and cool. High at 64 with bright sunshine. Tonight, it's going to be chilly. Could see some patchy frost on the North Shore. 36 there, 47 south.
Right,
tomorrow, Wednesday, another beautiful day. Sunny and cool at 65. Wednesday night, Thursday morning, another night where we could see patchy frost with
basically serve everything.
We do warm up by Thursday.
Wow, Jennifer looked really pissed.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz.
Sucks for you, bro.
We're on board. When are we doing that video, Jennifer?
Decide your
I love it.
back
We've done that great
Casino
video.
and Hotel. Win your choice of a 2018 Lexus IS, NX, or ES, or a share of thousands in bonus rewards. Visit BoomtownNewOrleans.com for info.
I keep doing an email. I think I'm supposed to Slack.
Time for a Target
I had a direct message on Slack the other day that I hadn't seen for like a week. I don't even know that thing existed.
What the hell is Slack?
It's our inter-office
I
email.
told you, Slack is the messaging tool for journalists worldwide.
Clyde got me all set up with that thing, and he wonderfully only gave me when I get a notification only when I'm directly tagged, and that is
prices may vary.
perfection.
Instead of my phone that literally just steadily
I'm
just
sure
does
it is.
this.
It's like yeah.
Cardi B is hinting that her debut album.
Cardi B.
Was she in the news every day?
Best New Artist prize.
Cause she's hot like fire.
Fire, yeah.
I just wish she was smoldering so we could all just die of asphyxiation.
Harsh.
Don't be hating.
Hey, I don't have Slack on my phone. I need to.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, clearly.
But something happened to it. I need you to
His
help me.
wife Faith Hill came on stage and explained.
It did, like,
That's like just answer for everything. It's like something happened to it. I need you to help me with
I
it.
couldn't get signed in. That's what it was. It says use your Slack URL. I don't know what that is.
I know that. On the Billboard
NOLA
200. The project is spending its third
NOLA
week
Newsroom?
at number one. The
all
most
one
weeks
word,
at
NOLA
the top
Newsroom.
since 2014's Frozen
At
soundtrack.
slack.com?
Yeah, all you have to do is type in NOLA Newsroom.
Now someone's going
50
to
Cent
sneak in our
show
Slack.
Power is getting renewed.
Well, they had
Your
Season
email
wrapped
address.
in
It's
gonna
September, and season 5 airs July
It's going to
1st.
be like someone's going to hack us.
Yeah.
It's all going to be my fault for leaking out our
Keep
national.
sending out emails to all of you. You guys suck.
Yes.
Liberal media.
Yeah.
Liberal media.
Or
South Africa
someone's going to send out and
was
put
made
in
aware of
Slack.
the findings and
Report,
assessed
Drew Brees
apology
arrested.
following the allegations.
And then we run with it.
It's like, oh my God, gotta confirm.
Yes.
To buy
Like
your
Ron
home,
Borges.
you became a house
Yes.
hunting ace. Learned about.
Just tag it
at
with
this hooligan.
TMZ and everybody will believe it.
Yeah.
Look at this bozo.
TMZ reporting.
Welcome.
Drew Brees in jail.
We gotta put him on the show just for the hell of it.
Yes.
But we can't hear you though.
You just missed a scintillating interview with Brett Martell.
Uncensored talk about your teams.
All right, we're back.
Lady, New Orleans.
Well, we won't have to panic when we're eating crawfish on Friday at the Troubadour Hotel, Jeff. All is well. Drew Brees, you never know. He might just stop by. I'm not saying that's actually going to happen.
Oh, yeah,
but
put that out there. That'll draw in
that'll
some people.
draw interest. No, that is not an endorsement that Drew Brees will be there. But no, we'll be taking the show on the road after hours. It's basically Dunc and Holder happy hour time. We'll be at the Troubadour Hotel at the rooftop bar, the Monkey Board, 1111 Gravier Street. We will be there starting at 5 o'clock on Friday. And we'll be having some crawfish at 5
Dunc
p.m.
and Holder after dark.
But it's not. It's daylight savings
Just
time.
Holder after dark.
It's just me
It's
Holder. Yeah, it's really just Holder and then that disembodied voice guy that no one really acknowledges when they call.
And it's
I just step in.
That's both of us, though.
It's not after dark. It's the twilight, because it's still going to be sunny because daylight savings time screwed everyone up. But no, going to have crawfish on Friday. $25 includes 3 pounds of crawfish, 2 local draft beers. You can also reserve a cabana for a cool $500. So if you got a bunch of peeps, it's not that expensive. But come on out. We're going to have a great time. Claude and myself and Dave will be there from 5 to 7. Jeff will be somewhere in London. I don't understand how that happened. I still don't remember.
Flying to London on Thursday.
You'll be saying it's business time somewhere.
Well, yes. So you'll be gone from the show Thursday and Friday. When do you return?
I'm back. I'll be back on the show Wednesday, I think. Maybe Tuesday.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I'll just assume Wednesday you'll be back.
I think I'm back Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll assume Wednesday just to be.
That way you'll be pleasantly surprised when I'm sitting here on Tuesday.
Yeah. You say pleasant.
That's exactly what I said.
Clyde has woken up. Clyde has got some energy.
Cocky Clyde suddenly is back.
The coffee is finally kicking in, I guess.
There we go. So obviously we've been talking a lot about Saints free agency, and let's dive into more. Of course, Drew Brees, big time topic, and oh wow, okay, I'm gonna just mention this. Cam Jordan already putting out another feeler for Jimmy Graham, literally just now on Twitter, saying, Drew done. Now get back to what I've been doing. Next on the agenda, huh? At the Jimmy Graham. So Cam Jordan currently trying to recruit Jimmy Graham right this second via Twitter.
And I think there's been some other people recruiting him as well, right? Didn't Mike Thomas put out a sentry trying to get him on board?
Mark Ingram has done that more than once already.
Zach Streif did.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense for everybody involved. But there must be a little bit of competition for him because Green Bay, I think it makes a lot of sense if you're Jimmy Graham too. Go there for Aaron Rodgers. So they can use that to their advantage to create a market to get a better deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Jimmy, you do want to weigh your options given this is probably going to be your last maximized contract in the NFL. So you certainly don't want to be everybody's some hometown discount. Well, New Orleans isn't his home right now. He needs to get back to New Orleans, but he's going to want to maximize his deal still. You know the agent he has too, and he's like the Tom Condons of the world. You don't hire those guys to just be like, oh well, take less. No, you don't hire those guys for that. And Jimmy Graham is certainly, there's a market, and there's a reason why contenders are after him, because they know he could be a piece to push them up to the next level.
I think it's going to be interesting. We haven't heard really much circulating from Saints offices or Saints camp about a wide receiver. Do we know if this team has tendered Brandon Coleman or not? Do we know that?
We don't know that quite yet.
So we know they did tender Willie Snead. They have obviously Mike Thomas. They obviously have Ted Ginn Jr. Is there a need for one more receiver there? I think they need one more receiver to go with that group. But you plug in Jimmy Graham. You've got Alvin Kamara, obviously, who's a great receiving threat, as is Mark Ingram. This offense is trying to take the next step. We all know, we've documented their third down issues. You get Jimmy Graham on there, he suddenly becomes a big target on third down. He's a great red zone target at 6'6". So to me, this offense has a chance. Even though they finished second in the league last year in total offense, they weren't quite as explosive as they've been in years past. They were a better running team, obviously, better ball control, but there's still some areas where they need to improve.
And people have reached out because, like I said, I wrote last week that I think they should go get Jimmy Graham, and the reunion makes perfect sense to me. But they keep bringing up, oh well, he doesn't block, and
please,
give me a break. You're not hiring him to block. You have Josh Hill and the Who Man, Michael Ho'omanawanui. You have those guys there to block, and they played significant snaps in doing so. Now, will you have to shift some of those? Because we certainly saw a lack of snaps from Coby Fleener, but if Jimmy can get... Here's the thing. If they run the ball and if Jimmy Graham's in there, I think he's capable of throwing 1 or 2 blocks a game. Maybe. I think he's capable. He's not going to be Larry Warford running people over, but I think he's capable of at least getting in the way of someone and allowing Alvin Kamara to scoot past, and you can get a big game.
That's like saying, oh, you got a chance to go on a date or you got a chance to marry Kate Upton, but she doesn't cook. I mean, who cares? Right? Who cares? That's not why you're involved here.
Well,
That's not why you're involved here.
Also, if you're worried about saving money, I mean, Justin Verlander makes $11 billion, so you're not worried about that either. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just putting this
That's
up.
fair, because it's like saying, oh, Justin Verlander doesn't cut the grass.
When people say stuff like that, I just think you're just a football nerd. Go back to your football focus study.
A football nerd.
I mean, give me a break. Jimmy Graham is a big-time threat in the seam, and that's something that they have not had in recent years. For whatever reason, Coby Fleener, and I actually think Coby Fleener's almost been a little bit underrated. I think he's been a little better than people make him out to be, but he's just been disappointing because of the contract they gave him. That was a very impulsive move, and he's had injury problems, which makes him, even more disappointing because he could be on the field the whole time. And then they really lost a threat. They had to go to Josh Hill. I think Josh Hill is a quality NFL player, but he's not a starter, I don't think.
No, he's a number 2 tight end who you want him in there to block because he's certainly capable and could maybe give you the random reception. So that's what you're looking for there. But people are saying, oh, don't spend the money on Jimmy Graham. Draft a tight end, Jeff. I think you explained that situation perfectly about rookie tight ends. They don't come in like gangbusters right away.
No, it's very difficult for the most part. That's why that position, most of the stars in the league are kind of veteran guys that have been around. Even guys that we've seen early in their career were perceived as disappointments. Zach Ertz was like that early on. It takes those guys a while to kind of find their niche in the NFL because it's such a difficult position, and so it's used in a lot of different alignments, and the versatility that's required to play the position at a high level is rare. So I think you get a guy like Jimmy Graham, I think it's going to be a slam dunk. I bet it gets done in the next 24, 48 hours. Just knowing how the Saints operate, they're going to go after him hard.
And just think about first-round picks that are tight ends. It's a rarity that they completely pan out. The last one I can think of that has really been Pro Bowl guy was Greg Olsen, and he was at the very end of the first round. I think that was the year the Saints drafted Robert Meacham, so 2007. I think that's how long, because of course he started with Chicago and then went to Carolina. I don't think Jason Witten was the first-round pick. I know Gronk wasn't. We know Jimmy Graham wasn't. So if you're going to gamble on a tight end in the first round, I think it is a gamble.
Think about it this way, too, guys. Can you think of a team, I don't know, maybe our listeners, somebody could call in and if you know the answer to this, but Jimmy Graham has been a Pro Bowl tight end. We know that.
5 times.
5 times. Mike Thomas is now a Pro Bowl receiver. The Saints have 2 Pro Bowl running backs, and they have a Pro Bowl quarterback. Has anybody ever had one team had all that at those skill set perimeter positions on offense? I don't know if we've ever seen that. You might have to go back to the Charger days with Kellen Winslow and Chuck Muncie and Dan Fouts and Wes Chandler.
I'm thinking maybe the juggernaut offense that was Minnesota when they had, say, Robert Smith and Dante Culpepper and Chris Carter and Randy Moss. I don't know who the tight end was. I know it's not Steve Jordan because that's kind of the person that popped up in my head. Of course, Cam Jordan's dad, but Steve Jordan was a Pro Bowler. So I don't know the answer to that.
And I'm not saying that for sure Jimmy Graham will make the Pro Bowl next year, but he's a Pro Bowl caliber player. Suddenly, this offense, I don't know what teams are going to do. And they may not even care about their defense because they might just outscore people if they get Jimmy Graham in his prime. And I think he's still got more wear on the tire. I know people say he's not the same player since he had the knee injury. He looks pretty good to me when I see him. And they're not going to ask him to go deep every down. I mean, that's just not the NFL. That's unrealistic.
No, and if you look at if they're able to add that piece and develop the offense anywhere near, say, look, obviously they've gotten a ton of yards and this, that, and the other, but if both the passing game and the running game are able to go, say, like in 2011, their defense is good enough to get them over the hump. Because if they're that good, they're going to outscore everyone. I don't know if that's going to be the case, and you never know with injuries, but I think that 2011 defense wasn't one of their best defenses. I mean, they had kind of the same
Yeah, I
cast
agree.
of players, and you saw a lot of changes after that, and you're curious if they could be so good on offense and if they're good enough on defense, but we know they're going to address defense too. I mean, there's no question.
They've got to.
They got to address.
They've got to. I mean, in the division with guys like Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, an emerging Jameis Winston, who I'm still not sold on, but nevertheless, you've got all these big stud receivers in the division. Mike Evans just re-signed. Cameron Brate re-signed. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you, in Carolina. I don't know what
they're hemorrhaging.
What's the plan there? I don't understand it. Someone educate me on Carolina.
Aloysius from New Orleans.
Think they're going to be better by letting all these guys go? I don't know.
Their plan is to hemorrhage, I guess, because Andrew Norwell is now going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar star. Latulele, he's going to be leaving that defensive front, and he's going to be with the Bills. Oh, by the way, former LSUer and longtime defensive lineman Kai Williams set to sign a one-year deal back with Buffalo, so he's not going anywhere. He's going to stick with this. So you're going to have Latulele and Williams up there. But yeah, Kurt Coleman's gone. Charles Johnson's gone. We don't know if they're going to bring back Julius Peppers. Jonathan Stewart's gone. It seems like they keep losing pieces, and I don't know how they're going to add pieces.
No one's going in.
Yeah.
That's all. Everybody leaving. We know that they have a kind of uncertain GM situation. Ownership is up in the air. To me, that organization looks completely in disarray. Complete disarray, yes.
Yeah. All right, let's take one more phone caller, and then we'll take our last break of the show. Let's head to New Orleans and talk with Aloysius. What's up, Aloysius? Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder.
Hey, man, I think it might have been 1978. Actually, it was the year, I believe, before we went 1-15. In the Pro Bowl, we had Archie at quarterback, Muncie and Galbraith in the backfield, Henry Childs at tight end, and Wes Chandler at wide receiver.
Wow.
And Hank Stram, I think that was that one great year. We went 7-9 or something.
Yeah, that great offense. You're right. I think
might have been 14 games we played back then.
I think that team was either first or second in the league in total offense, right?
I don't know that. I just know we had 5. We owned the Pro Bowl that year, and knew for sure we were going to Super Bowl, and we went 1-15 the next year or something like that.
That's when the drugs problem came to the Saints, I believe, in the next year. That's when
Don Reese and all the Miami Hurricanes. Excuse me.
Yes, and I think it was the
That's good.
the famous cover story, I think, in Sports Illustrated that documented the drug issue.
Yeah, right. Correcto.
Yep.
And that was a fun locker room, yeah.
There you go. All right, Aloysius, appreciate the phone call on the inside. Yeah, there we go. You ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, you receive, all right.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, to me, gosh, I don't know. I'm not willing to doubt Aloysius, but that seems like a lot of Pro Bowlers for back then. But maybe so. I know that Henry Childs definitely made it because I remember writing that he was the only other tight end to make the Pro Bowl for the Saints. I think Hobie Brenner made it one year as like a kind of a random blocking tight end.
That sounds right.
One time, and then Jimmy Graham. That was it. So.
Nope. Jeremy Shockey didn't make it while I was here, just in case you're wondering.
No, he did not.
No, he did not. But anyway, all right, one more segment coming up. And then, of course, Eric Asher follows us from noon to 2. I'm pretty sure he might talk Drew Brees, just a guess. Chris Gordy, 2 to 4. I think he'll talk Drew Brees, too. So, yeah. Big news, obviously. And who knows, Jimmy Graham, they may get a deal done in the next 20 minutes. Who knows? But if it happens, we'll bring it to you right here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
With up to 16 chances a day every weekday to win $1,000.
That
A
dude
smart
Martell
move
is the
would be to
equivalent to a
listen.
Charlie
I'm a smart
horse while having
speaker,
sex
and I
with
agree.
his
The
perceived
keyword to
tranquilized
text and win
state.
comes at the
While
top
you
of the
two were
hour.
interviewing him.
The
Talk
smart
about a
money is
buzzkill
on.
or getting
Sports
whiskey.
1280. New Orleans.
I gotta copy that.
Oh, have to be excited about this expanded second floor seating.
Who said that?
No, there is audio. You got to cover
sports
that.
now. You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your war?
No, it's okay. I'm gonna bring you in like
about
the last
the Saints
5
and the
seconds.
Pels.
So-
Wait, who said that?
Pizza are daily special.
It's on the YouTube. His name is
I know, but
I
who?
admit you have
Somebody I know?
Nola Nerd.
What about Katie's award?
Nola Nerd.
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself. Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City.
I gotta find that. That's awesome.
The City of
If we ever told that to Brett, though, he'd be
Mandeville Live
crushed.
Spring
Can't ever
Concert
let
Series. This
Brett
spring
hear that.
concert series features 6 free Friday
did
evening
sound like he
concerts.
Here it
at
is,
Mandeville
that dude
Trail in
Martell.
historic Old Mandeville.
Let me agree that it's so incoherent. It's terrible.
Through May
Jeff
4th,
Jeff
featuring
even
artists like the
called him out. He's
Boogeyman,
like, man,
Little
you
Fred,
sound so
and
fired up.
That's so fired up
Gates
about it.
open at
Just kinda
6.
like-
Concerts start at
Yeah.
6:30. Food and beverage will be available for purchase.
Got 'em
For more
spruced up,
information
though.
and to see the lineup, go to cityofmandeville.com.
Yeah, I mean, it was like ridiculous. So even by
Mandeville
Martell
Live
standards, that
Spring
was.
Oh, so the mood meeting got.
Yeah, I think they.
WhatsApp
Wait
is
till I
giving
get
you a
back.
little more
I am
time
back.
to delete
I am
that
back
message.
Tuesday.
The Verge
Okay.
says the
I like to
Facebook
get back to
phone
like
messaging site is
10
changing
o'clock
the
on
amount
Monday
of
night,
time
but I'll
users can
be
delete a
fresh
message
and
they've
charged
already
coming
sent
in
to
on
Oh,
Tuesday.
sure. Yeah, after
From the
an
previous
8-hour
Wednesday,
flight.
7
I'll see
minutes
you
to
Wednesday.
now up to 1
Yeah,
hour,
see you
8 minutes
Wednesday.
and 16 seconds to
After an
delete
8-hour
for
flight.
everyone. WhatsApp did not give a reason for the
at
delete
iHeart, we gotta
extension.
go.
Apple Maps will now show you where the nearest bike sharing location is in over
as Jim
175
points out,
cities across 36 countries.
Minnesota
New feature
tight
does
end
not tell you
during
the number of
Cunningham,
available
and then
bikes
Culpepper
or
was
empty
Andrew
docks.
Glover.
Just a reminder, the
Dante Stallpepper.
Andrew Glover, of
Andrew
course.
Glover and Byron Chamberlain.
Former
TV
Grambling
services, the price
State
hike is because
standout.
they're adding new channels. Golf fans can now use Apple's
You didn't know that,
augmented
Clive, did
reality
you?
platform to explore their
Yeah,
favorite
right.
holes on the PGA.
Yeah, Nichols got lucky, by the way. Didn't draw a Louisville win.
I told dude once we got past the Louisville bracket, I was like, it's either Austin, Waco, or Starkville. And then once we got like big hell the last one, I was like, we're going to freaking Starkville. It's amazing.
All right, 15 seconds.
Who has dreams bigger than her village? Right now, there's an elder in Guatemala who dreams of a life of greater dignity and less loneliness. You can help change the future of one person in a single moment. Begin the change at unbound.org.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Name this band, Clyde.
One more segment here on Dunc and Holder. And Dave's already asking you to name bands.
As we come back with Crawling in the Dark by Hoobastank, one of my favorites.
Damn!
Whoa.
You're a genius.
Dude, now you're gonna, if anything, like you've done a really great job because yesterday I listened to nothing but Janet Jackson in the afternoon. Today is going to be all 90s, mid 90s, early 90s, and 2000s rock. Alternative.
Is Nelson part of that group?
Nope, you're a loser.
What about Debbie Gibson?
Nelson.
She does not sing rock.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Nelson had those
Strong
guys
pass.
had some beautiful hair.
Yeah, right. Okay.
What? What I do?
I'm going to challenge Dave to see.
What
if
about
he can-
Hootie? Is Hootie involved in that?
All right, guys. So the only question I had to end the show
My Hootie
was
Drew
Brees. With Drew Brees. Yeah. So we've talked about the Saints. We've talked about, if anything, the Seahawks completely shipping everybody out. Washington's about to lose Kirk Cousins. You've got the Rams moving. I think Sammy Watkins moved.
Well,
today. He's
Washington
going on.
already. You can't. Don't forget.
Yeah,
they have Alex
yeah,
Smith.
sure, Alex
They have
Smith,
Alex
yeah.
Smith.
And none of these things are signings.
Right.
They
They're
can't sign till tomorrow.
Potential signings.
They're agreed upon. They
right.
put ink to paper tomorrow.
And just to be fact checked here, Aloysius was not accurate.
Oh.
I appreciate you listening. Wes Chandler, Henry Childs, Archie Manning, Chuck Muncie all made the Pro Bowl, but Tony Galbraith did not. Tommy Myers did that year, but I'm just saying. I didn't think that sounded right.
All right. Well, Jeff looking it up. There you go. But
Well, I needed to know.
Of course.
I needed to know.
And you had to get it in before the show ended.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, our listeners out there need to be fed correct information.
It's also true.
Yes, absolutely. But look, I think we will be either on the show tomorrow or leaving the show shortly after. And I would, not to beat this Jimmy Graham thing, but I think we'll at least know the situation by 24 hours from now.
Tomorrow, yeah, probably so. We'll have some indication from the Graham camp. I think it's going to be a quick shotgun wedding. It's going to happen quick.
So you're convinced he's coming here? You're
Yeah,
convinced?
I really am. I don't know why anybody wouldn't be. I mean, for Jimmy Graham, this is, like you said, it's probably going to be the last significant deal he signs. End your career here with a chance to win a Super Bowl. I think it makes perfect sense to me.
And the Saints, as we assume, once we get the details of Drew Brees' contract, will still have significant cap space, and then you get a couple of dollars back with the retirement of Zach Strief. And by the way, we've totally not dove into his press conference, and
Aldo Metairie.
I wanted to play a little bit of it, but yeah,
I got it.
All I know is I just want to play this one. Dave, do you have all three, or just do you have that one?
I got all three. I got it all.
Okay. I say we end the show. I don't know if we have time for get it all in, but let's start with Zach Strief on Sean Payton here.
I could not have been more fortunate than having Sean Payton as a head coach for the past 12 years. Your genius as an offensive mind and play caller are well documented. Your genius as a leader of men is only known by the fortunate few that have had the privilege of being around you in this building. I have the utmost respect for you. You had more to do with me getting an opportunity here than anyone else. You took a chance on me when no one else would.
We got time for all three.
It has changed my life forever. I will miss our meetings, talking about the team and about life. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this opportunity.
And let's hear what Zach Strief says about Mickey Loomis.
I've signed 5 contracts in New Orleans and restructured 2 of them. Every one of them started with a meeting in Mickey Loomis's office. This is a business that revolves around deception, constantly trying to outthink our opponents. The same can be true in the front office. In 12 years, not once did Mickey Loomis mislead me. Your honesty did not go unnoticed. These past few years, I've had the opportunity to share with you my view on so many different aspects of this organization. Thank you for the opportunity to feel so involved in every aspect of our building. You kept me around for a long time, admittedly to your own surprise. If I was honest, I'd say it surprised me as well. Thank you for everything that you've given me.
And of course, let's wrap up with Zach Strief's emotional response when talking about his friend Drew Brees.
For the past 8 years, I've played in front of the most prolific passer in NFL history. Drew Brees has been the single greatest motivation for me as a player. Every day I would walk into the building and pass Drew watching film. Every Thursday I would send him pictures of the menu so we could order his dinner, since his workday ended 4 hours after ours. You have made countless sacrifices for your teammates, spent countless hours with us instead of your family. My greatest drive as a player was not to let you down. You're the greatest leader I've ever been around, and I admire you so much as a player, but more as a person. Being a small part of your Hall of Fame career has been my greatest honor as a player. I will miss being around you on a daily basis. Thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do.
You have a hanky?
And that's what makes Zach Strief one of the best.
10 seconds.
So, all right,
10 seconds.
We're all done.
Cut the onions.
Exactly. We're all done here. We'll be back tomorrow. Eric Asher coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Welcome back, everyone. This is...
Thank you, bud. Didn't even know.
Thanks, All right, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.
I just want you to know, David, the greatest producer I've been around, the greatest honor of my career.
You're always listening to audio every time you come in.
I'm gonna
make you meditate.
Give me a hot second.
More dog. Go to
Now I'm gonna get in trouble, Jeffrey. People will be like, why are you making fun of Drew Brees, you bastards?
.org/making sense. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
It's music to your ears. The chance to visit one of the most unique cities in the world while it's celebrating its historic 300th birthday. Welcome to San Antonio's Tricentennial. A full year of events, exhibits, and unmatched fun. There's never been more to do, experience, and taste than right now. And it's all waiting for you here in this one-of-a-kind city, rich in culture, character, and endless entertainment. Plan your perfect trip at visitsanantonio.com.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
Fox Sports trending now. Even with the signing period about 24 hours away, free agency is still off and running in the NFL, with the latest being reports of Minnesota likely to sign quarterback Kirk Cousins. The deal would be for 3 years at a reported guaranteed number of $86 million. already happening. Drew Brees, he's going to stay with the New Orleans Saints. 2-year deal worth $50 million, while Case Keenum is making his way to Denver. Sammy Watkins is going to become a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Buffalo has signed a 5-year deal will sign a 5-year deal with former Carolina defensive tackle Star Lotulelei. They're also trading left tackle Cordy Glenn to Cincinnati in order to move up from number 21 to number 12 in the NFL draft. Former Eagles tight end Trey Burton's agreed to a 4-year deal with Chicago. I'm Ralph Irvin.
Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BILLS to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BILLS to 200-200.
Are you looking for a great happy hour? A place where the real drinkers go, because the real drinkers know. Lamplighter Bar and Grill. For over 50 years at Oaklawn and Vets, open 24/7. Lamplighter already has the lowest price in town. But join us for happy hour, Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 8 p.m., and get the lowest happy hour prices in town. On call brands like Crown Royal, Jack Daniels, Johnny Walker, Brewers, Kettle One, Grey Goose, Bacardi, and more. The kitchen's always open. Lamplighter Bar and Grill, Metaire's best kept secret. On events next to the Burger King.
Frisbee's brings back waterfront dining to West End with our spacious dining room and outdoor seating, along with 300 foot of dock space to park your boat, all overlooking the Orleans Marina. Hi, I'm Jonathan Frisbee. Our menu is a mix of West End seafood classics, Italian dishes, and all of your New Orleans traditional foods, along with our contemporary signature dishes like combination shrimp and crab meat remoulade, fried green tomatoes, fresh fish tacos, or a tuna tartare drizzled with wasabi oil. Frisbee's is open every day but Tuesday at 11:30 for lunch. Dinner, cocktails, and private parties. Frisbee, 7400 Lakeshore Drive. Come as you are.
People who name their savings accounts save more than those who don't. The following was inspired by a Navy Federal Credit Union savings account named Family Vacation.
This was such a good call.
Oh, we needed this. What do you think the kids are up to?
Relaxing.
Open a Save First account with Navy Federal Credit Union and give a name to what you're saving for. NavyFederal.org. Open to everyone in the Armed Forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Federally insured by NCUA.
It's music to your ears. The chance to visit one of the most unique cities in the world while it's celebrating its